what we see happening out there, and that's the activity we're going to do in a minute. But we see that there are various there are 5 main stages that people go through. So the first one is called starting out, which is what most people here who are involved in transition could tell you about. That moment when they first met some people in a pub, or found somebody else with the same book under their arm, or came together with people they already knew and said, have you heard about this thing? We could do transition, it could be really interesting. And the groups started from that. So that starting out stage is really that initial stage, maybe even before you call it transition anything. But it's about the importance of getting in place the good group structures, the ways of working, the things that will mean you have a good foundation for moving forward from that point on. The second one is called deepening, which is about when you suddenly find yourself being, we are now transition, Belsize or Taunton or wherever, and actually how you then develop that. The next one is connecting, which is then when you start to really reach out through things like transition streets and try and really deepen what you're doing. And then building is that stage where you move on into saying, okay, we're really serious now about creating a local infrastructure, about making localization happen. How do we do that? How do we create a community bank, community energy company? How do we start planning intentionally for that? And then the last one is daring to dream, which is that idea of thinking, which we'll talk about at the end a bit more, but which is about thinking, well, where's all this going? What would it look like actually if this were happening everywhere and started to really join up? And how does it start to change the wider story that we tell and what we see happening on the ground? So what we came up with for the new book really was we started to see what we called ingredients. So things that people were doing in different places that was happening in enough places that it felt like it was a part of this process. So it was a problem people came up with and a solution that we saw modelled enough times to think, yeah, that feels like it's a part of this process. So we tried to get away from that idea of it being 12 steps where you start with this one and then you do this one and then you do this one and you have to do that one before you go on to the next one and so on. That actually it's more like cooking, in that you go into the larder and you have all these different ingredients. And if I gave out a recipe for my favourite chocolate cake here today, you'd all make nice chocolate cakes, but they'd all be distinctly different. They'd all be your own chocolate cakes. And people could add in their own recipes. So these things have all become very place-specific. Transition is something which even in neighbouring villages or neighbouring parts of a city have their very own distinctive kind of flavour and taste to them. So what we're going to do, how many people are we? Well, I'm going to, what we did, we've got little cards that have, this is going to be a bit of an interact, get up and move around now, which is good. So I've got these cards. So on one side you have the name of an ingredient, and then you have where it fits, so starting out, so it's something you need at the beginning. And on the back it just has a little bit of text. So the first bit is the challenge that it sets out to address, and then in bold, then it's the solution that tries to embody. So what we're going to do is a mingle, which is a way of basically you all teaching each other this, rather than me standing here and going, here's the first one, here's the next, we'll be here all day. So to give yourselves a kind of a taste of it, the idea is we'll deal them out, and you'll all get one, and then we'll move all the chairs to the side, and then we'll all kind of squeeze in and all mingle around. And the idea is not to just meet one person and chat with them for 10 minutes, but the idea is to get around as many people as possible, show them yours, hear theirs, and move on to the next one. And in order to bring everybody back again at the end, what I'll do, which is something that we do a lot of transition things, which you probably know, I'll put my hand up. When you see someone with their hand up, put your hand up and stop talking, and then we can bring everybody back to being quiet very, very quickly. So we'll do this for about 10-15 minutes. So you get to go around and kind of hear as many of them as you can. And then we'll come back and I'll talk a bit more after that. Does that sound good? Yeah. Yep. Okay, so... okay, so if we get these chairs out of the middle here. Has everybody got one? Anybody not got one? Okay, so pack in here into the middle. There's a nice big space in the middle. So have a mill around. So you meet somebody, introduce yourself, tell them what's on your card.
Inclusion and diversity.
The greatest range of voices and experiences is not easy, but it is vital to their success. Diversity can only come from commitment to values of inclusion and respect throughout the organisation. Go out to people and listen, and build on the concerns and passions that fuel the people around.
Absolutely, you've got to start where people are at.
Yes.
Whatever rings somebody's bell, that's the people you work with.
Yeah.
They don't have to enter your entire world, you just got to find out what works for them. I've got visioning, which is great. Really important to us in our group. We keep going back to it. We keep going back to it. Taunton Transition, of the stripy jumper in the council. So this is what Rob was saying about if you can't imagine what that post-carbon future's like, you don't even know where you're going. You know, you're just kind of operating in a fog. So whether it's through telling stories to each other or looking back over the past year and seeing where our vision's taking us, it's a really important part of what we do. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Are you involved in one?
Sorry?
Are you involved in one?
No, I'm not involved in it.
It's the same with many groups though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They need to be kept really.
Because at the beginning there's a lot of enthusiasm, and then it's trying to sort of retain that, because people can sort of get exhausted by
offering project support to create the infrastructure that projects need as they emerge, offering common sense of purpose and providing some support.
So do the mingling round once you've said yours. Try
Marion Drew, please meet.
Hi, Drew. I'm talking about creativity in the arts, the importance of bringing colour and fun and joy into everything that we do and making that an essential part of it. And I feel really passionate about that. How about you?
Well, mine's practical manifestations. This is part of the deepening process. What we're looking at is when you first start off the group, often it's you don't have any working examples, so it's really important to get things up and running. Otherwise, it can become a bit of a talk shop and you start losing members. So the idea is to have really playful, colourful projects that people can see that are non-threatening, that engage with people, and they're highly visible. So people that might be interested in the community can actually see things happening. So we're presenting that vision, that working example of the low energy future.
Well, having said that, I mean,
Having opted out of consumer
so
society,
for a minute you're going to be a young person because I'm looking to engage young people.
Oh right,
according
okay.
to my card, right?
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
So, would a young person come to a boring old lecture like this?
Definitely, yes.
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 All right. So, how else would you?
Basically, sorry, the camera. So it's a bit of a building process. It's saying like to engage the community in thinking about the way that things might change, and actually do the research based on the research and what we actually know about how the future might look, rather than on the assumption of what has happened before. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's great. So I've got practical manifestations. So the problem is, if nothing visible happens early on, then it can be a bit of a talking shop, which is quite common in green groups. Sometimes they can be quite stale. So the solution here is to create visible manifestations, like planting nut trees in very visible locations, and to get people seeing that something's happening.
Yeah.
And then that can,
Have a
yeah.
So you've got enough of a group enough momentum, and then approach the most sympathetic person from the council, and then collaborate together very much so. And rather than nagging them about what they haven't done, rather saying, what can we do together? How can we help feed into your policy making? How can we help you in your activities? If you've got enough expertise in the group, even offer to draft policy documents and stuff, which they probably love. So, yeah. What's yours?
Mine's the very first forming an initiation group, which basically covers getting the first groups coming together just to set out networks, how to feel and see who much interest there is, and sort of set a solid base of people they're interested in. There's a good foundation conversations until another group takes over the reins and wants to establish wider reaching transition initiatives.
Yeah, but I think it's more about existing organisations, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you've got people who've already got the will to do it, but haven't got the means.
I suppose. What's your
So, oral histories, about asking old people to tell their stories. People who remember times when things were more frugal and more resilient than they are now. So it says...
And then they can pass on the skills that they used to have.
Well, yeah, and they love being asked. You know, I mean, in the case of my mum, you get the same stories again and again and again.
I want to celebrate, which is something that we've talked about a lot, but we realised that as we were doing these things, we would sort of have some little success. And almost immediately forget about it because we have this whole other group of problems that we need to deal with. So we just kind of say, oh, success, that's the next problem. Right. So we thought, well, look, we just got to stop and say, okay, this is a good success, little success, we should just celebrate it and leave it until tomorrow to sort out the next problem. And it was a really good way to get everybody to feel much more sort of motivated because you weren't only
always going for the next thing than towards the ideal, celebrating where you're at.
So it's just looking at what tools currently exist. There's possibly a transition website, like insect forums, advertising, handing out leaflets, and trying to get neighbouring communities perhaps to come.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's something that we. So with these ingredients and the tools that are the backbone really of the book, what we're also doing is putting them all online because they were all developed very collaboratively. So we do drafts and put them online, and people would comment, and people would send in their stories and their editions, and so those are all going up online now, and they'll be active from when the book comes out. But we tried the idea of cards like this out at the Transition Conference in Liverpool a month or so ago, and people really enjoyed it. And what we also people were doing with it was as a tool for groups. So to say, tell the story of your transition initiative so far using the cards. Lay them out and tell the story. First we did this and we did a bit of that, and you lay out the story on the floor, and then it's really interesting to see which of the cards you're still holding that actually nobody's played. You know, why didn't we do that? Well, that would have been good. Maybe things got a bit stuck because we didn't actually do enough of that. And so what we're going to do, again, at the same time as the book comes out, is actually have a downloadable thing on the website where you'll be able to download a PDF of the cards with a little, with some games that you can play with them, because there's various different games that you can play with them as a tool. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about, we've got about 20 minutes left, I think. So I just want to say a little bit about where this all looks like it might be going next, and then we'll have some time for your thoughts and questions. And actually, as I said at the beginning, there are a fair few people here who've been doing transition stuff nearly as long as I have, so it'd be good for them to respond to as well, to questions that you might have. The last bit in the book, so a few people who had the daring to dream ones. So there's 3 of those, which are the ones about, well, what would it look like if all of this became established all over the place? So one of those is around the idea of policy. What does it look like if you've got transition happening all over the place and policy actually comes down to meet it and try and enable that? And we got a little taste of that a while ago in Somerset in 2008 when Somerset County Council passed this resolution totally out of the blue. We didn't know anything about it. We just got a phone call that said, oh, Somerset County Council last night passed a resolution to become a transition county council. And we said, what on earth does that mean? And then they said, well, we're hoping you might be able to tell us what that meant. And actually that was kind of really hopeful for a little while. And then the council changed and became a predominantly conservative council. And in their budget review, they cut everything to do with climate change. They cut the sustainability team. They just cut absolutely everything.